we're going to kick off with a video and just basically take it from there. Hopefully setting some baseline.
People are more connected than ever to the things they love. Google-powered devices and services can help you make even deeper connections with your customers, when and where it matters most. Display the right offers at the right time with strategically placed beacons. Use Chrome purpose-built devices to give them control over their shopping experience. And help provide your sales associates with the right information to serve customers better.
Appreciate your help.
Make personalized recommendations with machine learning. And keep checkout frictionless with Android-powered mobile point of sale. Deliver an immersive, secure experience for your customers with connected tools and services from Google Cloud.
So I think that sets a pretty good baseline as to what we want to talk about today. I head up our Chrome OS team as well as our Chrome browser practice in the Americas. And we've been talking about cloud, we've been talking about very theoretical products here and very theoretical concepts. But I want to kind of make it very tactical and try to put some meat to the bone and almost relay this to what that actually means from a vertical perspective, specifically from a retail perspective, and kind of tie it all together a little bit. We have the great fortune to welcome one of our key partners, Domino's Pizza, who I will say was mentioned by Sundar in the earnings call 2 days ago. And we'll talk a little bit about how they leveraged Chrome OS and the greater cloud narrative to create more efficiencies and kind of streamline their operations. But I mean, I guess as a good, like a good essay, I'll start with my synopsis, and this is kind of our opening hypothesis here, and it's relatively uncontroversial, right? But it's somewhat surprising. Retail has always been the poster child for MBA case studies, right? While researching last night for this presentation, if you go back 6-7 years ago, it was said that brick and mortar was dead, right? And that the omni-channel would simply morph into a singular channel, namely e-commerce. The business model of retailers has changed, but it has essentially put technology front and center as an enablement tool for both the associate and the consumer. And I think that's really, really important to highlight. Now, technology has redefined go-to-market strategies, and interestingly enough, it has once again articulated the need for human interaction. We were at an executive reception last night, and someone really put it well. Cloud has actually created a need for the human factor again, right? So the personalized experience of engaging with cloud, or any cloud for that matter, is really, really important, right? And so what we want to kind of get to today is how do we do that seamlessly? How can I engage with you without looking at my screen, but certainly taking advantage of information that is on demand and on time? So yes, I'm going to bore you with the standard McKinsey-esque, BCG-esque stats, but just to set a baseline here, and I think it's important. The emerging digital business models, ones that have really perfected this technology integration, which have really redefined this omni-channel approach, are really threatening the status quo. And you don't have to be an accountant to kind of realize that these macro trends are going on. 25% of operating earnings are declining due to a very tactical shift as to what's happening in the store. So retail is really in the middle of this perfect storm, and technology, global sourcing, global brands have all conspired to drive prices and margins down for extended periods of time. Along those lines, 42% of the consumers do online research, right? And while they shop on smartphones and tablets, it's something that we have all done before. We go into the store has essentially become the test bed, has become quite literally the showroom, but then we go back home, go price shop, and convert offline. So you're essentially taking an offline conversion and converting it online, which is clearly hampering certain conversion rates. Now, What's interesting, though, and again, this is something that a few years ago McKinsey has predicted accurately, was that the overall pie has grown, right? And retail, for how we know it, has seen this renaissance, and it's mostly driven by digital. And you can double-click on that word and basically say, well, digital can be anything. It can be advertising, it can be YouTube, it can essentially be seamless devices floating in the store. So it's still the fastest growing sector, but the growth curve has to be explained differently, right? And we really have to understand what's going on inside the stores to actually effectively capture that $523 billion by 2020. So now more than ever, I think technology and specifically access to the cloud will help streamline and anticipate customer needs and bringing purchases back into the store by simply connecting associates and customers alike. So, and I keep stressing this, and I know our partner in Domino's will mention this as well, but ultimately, technology, seamless technology in stores will create deeper understanding of lifetime and cross-brand behavior. This supporting smarter acquisition and just a deeper understanding of what stickiness actually means. So why do you care? Why do we care? Well, we're here, we're at Next. We at least want to be somewhat prescriptive as to how we can help with that. Now, Google, and I want to shy away for a little bit, just not to talk about devices, but look at our entire ecosystem. So we have this toolkit that enables retail transformation and really integrates with your current system's hardware. And I came from the Google Apps, now Google's G Suite side, and so I understand the challenges of essentially accepting the cloud and then kind of laying out a path to the cloud. I started in 2008, where arguably cloud was a buzzword. It was by no means mainstream. But if you look at our portfolio, I think it's important to understand that if you work with us, we will not only be prescriptive, but we can start to look at it tactically, all the way to basically making strategic transformations, right? And the thing that I always say, and it's always kind of the daunting elephant in the room, is like we get the cloud, but we're afraid of the cloud. We have altered our approach in the sense that we will meet you where you are. So if you look at the in-house stack, and I think everyone is struggling with that a little bit, I call it architectural path dependence, right? So you made a decision 25 years ago, you're locked into that decision, and you've essentially created these legacy stacks that are coherent in of itself. It's a system, but they simply don't talk to each other. So how do you protect your investment here and still build a bridge, right? And tactically, does it start with maybe G Suite collaboration? Does it start with devices? All the way strategically, do you actually lift and shift and take most of your infrastructure over to our cloud? We can't answer that for you, but we're certainly here to help. And we think that we have a pretty all-encompassing portfolio to kind of help that. And being obviously at Next, I hope you got a sense of that. So where do you start? So let's bring this a little bit back to the devices realm of things. I think there's an overwhelming reality that, and really one thing that both constituents that you deal with that have in common, and they're both cloud natives. Yeah. Today's customers and staff are cloud native, so the idea to seamlessly provide both with real-time relevant information is there. They go into the store and they want to use the exact same technology that they use at home. They're used to Gmail. They're used to on-time, real-time information. So that is one way to start. If there's only one thing that I'll leave you with today, is Google Enterprise, and Google Chrome Enterprise for that matter, is the platform that can help you essentially get to the cloud. It's that very first step, not only for your business, but also for your cloud workers. Yeah? It is the path to essentially, it's the safest platform, the safest OS out there to connect your distributed workforce to your existing applications, whether they be legacy or whether they be in the cloud. And we'll do this securely, by design. We'll provide granular controls. It starts with the browser, then it morphs into the OS. But again, if you want to future-proof yourself, you want to start somewhere, you essentially start with Chrome. We've coined this term cloud worker, and I want to just be very, very clear. For us, it's really front and center. It's dictating our strategy. Yeah? Knowledge worker, lots of misinformation out there. Yeah, what does that mean? It has morphed into various different terms throughout the last 25 years. But we all know that if you have cloud natives and cloud-first distributed workforces, those people need to access their applications. They need to do so seamlessly, and they need to do this in a secure fashion. And that's really where Chrome OS comes into play. We are that delivery vehicle, that underlying safe operating system that will kind of pave the path to the cloud. Now, and we think we're onto something. Our traction in retail, and I will kind of extend that a little bit and include manufacturing, include healthcare, branches of the government, have really spun up the need for the cloud worker and predominantly have actually dictated to the OEMs what form factor that should be. So in the EDU world, we had a really simple problem statement, standardized testing. So it essentially needed a ruggedized device. So it was a laptop form factor, pretty straightforward. But what do you do with distributed workforces that actually are on the road, that need to engage? You and I need to engage, but I still need information because you asked me a question, I don't have it handy. Do I need a keyboard for that? Or do I need a tablet form factor? And so we have this ever-growing portfolio of devices. We have this growing OEM ecosystem that are essentially now starting to cater to this very specific use case. Again, with the idea in mind that it'll be the device that you're using, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a detachable, is going to be that safe, secure access point to the cloud. So it's all about connecting the associates. And so in the field, with some of our retail customers, we're solving for very tactical problems, right? And one way to look at it is basically giving a traditionally offline paper-based workforce a device. Bundle that with G Suite, and all of a sudden you have a real-time collaboration ecosystem that you just established at a $300 price point. And I guarantee you it's going to be the safest endpoint if it decides to get legs and get lost in a cab, right? Onboarding and training, something that we are doing with Big Lots, for instance. Product information lookup that we're doing with Costco. Ordering and smart signage, contextual signage that we're doing at McDonald's. Little do you know that if you actually drive through McDonald's drive-through, most likely you are working through and via a Chrome OS provided solution. And once you start there, we think that the use case can actually mature. I mean, think about it in the way of value chain, right? A sign is something very tactical. But at the end of the day, that can morph into something different, right? So imagine walking to the store, you being the cloud worker, as an associate, you have a device and you get contextual offers fed to you via some kind of proximity API. Yeah? Imagine us being able to externalize pieces of the OS and essentially giving you access to some form of POS that you can then build on, something that Sears is doing right now with us. Right? Self-service checkout, you're automating everything, but still are in control through our centralized management layer. The last one I want to touch on, it's almost an archaic one, and it's a use case that at least in my time here at Google Chrome, has in and of itself transformed itself. So this rather unsexy term called kiosk is really by customers, and I hate to point out Domino's here, but is really seen as the entry point into the cloud. So I don't like the term kiosk because it really doesn't tell me anything. A kiosk, I think, today can actually be a mobile endpoint. It can very much fulfill a cloud worker role, right? But what's interesting about it is that if you have a kiosk inside the store, you actually control the purpose of that endpoint. It's no longer a dumb terminal. You can actually, via human interaction, control what you do with that customer. You can push out feeds. You know at every point in time where that customer is inside the store and so on and so forth. So think about that. You're taking a very archaic use case, and now you're inside the store. You have that screen, and that screen now, it gets repurposed throughout the course of the day. We have this great example of Costco, where Costco needed a device, a safe, secure, lockdown device to input credit card data. Yeah? So it's essentially, it's a $350 tablet that wanders around the floor, sometimes gets dropped because they have a cement floor, so it breaks. But the reality is that happens during the morning, and at night, the manager picks up the exact same device, and via login details, repurposes that device, and all of a sudden that becomes a full-blown cloud worker device. So you have the journey from kiosk to cloud worker dealt with in a $350 device. In essence, this is what the ideal state looks like. You tactically insert Chrome OS through a distributed workforce, and then you see the footprint actually organically grow. And one thing I will say for folks that ask me, like, where do you start, and we'll hear a little bit about with Domino's as well, is like, in order to get to that state, start small. Give us a very well-defined problem statement that we can solve for. Yeah? And we'll prove it out. That being the cloud worker, that being the distributed workforce. And then we will organically, hopefully, grow that footprint and solve for other tactical solutions. And all of a sudden, you have a very strategic shift in the way you treat operating systems. And Chrome, I think, can be that underlying infrastructure. So that was a very general, almost analyst-style baseline of where we are. I now want to invite Domino's up on stage, Matt, who will go a little bit deeper and share some thoughts on the deployment. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Hello. I'm here to talk about the unsexy kiosk. So, thanks, Sebastian. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Voigt. I'm the director of e-commerce at Domino's Pizza. Like I said, I'm here to talk about the kiosk, but how many people have, let me ask real quick, have either seen or used a Domino's kiosk in the store? Well, pretty good, not terrible. Very, very few show of hands though, right? So we're really at the beginning of that journey right now. So I'm going to go through that right now. So let me start with a little bit of background. So we started the project to develop an in-store kiosk about 2 years ago, and we basically came up with two use cases essentially. So first use case is if you're a new customer, or if you're a Domino's customer, you're walking in the store and you've not yet placed your order, then you can walk up to the kiosk and use that to place a new order. But we're not like most fast food chains. We're not like McDonald's where you go into the store to actually purchase. Usually people walking into a Domino's store already have placed their order. So what you do if you walk into a Domino's store and you have not, or have you already have placed your order, you walk up to the kiosk. The kiosk is on the right there. You see a list of names. You touch your name. You get a presentation of your order, make sure the order is correct. You get an upsell, get a 2-liter of Coke. You can pay using the credit card device. And then you've checked in. So that's the check-in experience for the customers. In the back of the store, we have a second device. The second device is on the left there. We call that the team member notification device, very creatively named. And not surprisingly, it's responsible for notifying team members in the back of the store when someone has checked in. So in the back of the store, they'll see, Matt's come in, he's already paid, he's checked in, he's ready to go, so I can take the order, I can hand it to the customer in the lobby, and they're gone. So the idea of the kiosk is that it's supposed to be a very efficient, fast, seamless process for customers who are carry-out customers coming into the store. So that's sort of a quick rundown of why we've developed this kiosk. The reason we chose Chrome there's a few reasons, obviously. So I was a big proponent of the platform. I'd used it previous to the project, so I was aware of its benefits coming into the project. But we really wanted a Chrome, a thin client that could render web content. We wanted it to be fast and secure. We wanted the remote management capabilities because we're deploying these devices into stores, and the stores are all over the US, and so we don't have physical access to them. So that was important for us to have as a requirement. And we wanted commercial-grade hardware that would scale and be cost-effective for us as well. So you're putting these devices into stores. Store environments aren't always nice to hardware, so you need something that can stand up to that environment. So we chose Chrome. Chrome OS and G Suite were really good requirements for what we needed for this use case. So hardware-wise, we're using, just to give you a quick update or overview, we're using an ELO, I think it's a 22-inch touchscreen backed by a Chrome Box Mini. And then on the team member notification device, it's a 10-inch all-in-one Chrome base unit that's used for that. And we're just really at the beginning of this. We've got about 500 Chrome devices deployed out into stores today. As you can see, there's really 2 devices needed for each deployment, the customer-facing and the team member-facing. So 500 devices in about 250 stores. So not a huge deployment, but we're planning to reach about 1,000 devices that we'll be managing by the end of this year. So we're keep rolling. We're keeping moving on there. So we're just knowing that we're just at the beginning of this process, though. We started deploying these things back in September. We've learned a lot. We've had a lot of great experiences and some learnings, so I can share a few of those with you now. But we're always learning, of course. So G Suite's great. Obviously, it's one of the reasons we chose this platform because of the remote management capabilities. But the kiosk itself is comprised of a lot of different technologies that are all integrated together. So the Domino's kiosk is very complicated, in my opinion. It's so you have the 2 Chrome devices, you have the credit card machine, you have the touchscreen device, you have store networks, Wi-Fi networks in the store, and then you have the web apps that we've built for the interface of the kiosk and the team member notification system. So all of those things have to be integrated, and if any one of them don't work, then the kiosk doesn't work, obviously. So Chrome's been extremely stable. It's probably the most stable component of the whole architecture. And G Suite's been great to manage the Chrome devices, but we really have to build a bunch of additional monitoring and reporting and notifications around the entire system. So if the payment machine goes down, we need to know about it. We need to respond to it and do something about that. So lesson learned for us early on is when we're remotely managing these things, we can't just rely on G Suite. We have to build enough robustness around that monitoring architecture to support the entire solution. So that was one lesson we learned. The OS update cycle. So the Chrome team does a good job of updating the operating system. About every 6 weeks they come out with it. I'm sure most people here know there's the dev, beta, stable cycle that they go through. And those updates, we want those to flow into the stores and we want them to be updated, but they can also break things if you don't test properly when those updates come out. So we've had to develop some internal processes to account for that and keep up with the rolling cycle. So we've developed not only some processes, but we put a little lab together, and we have a bunch of devices with all the different channels installed on them, and we test all the new updates that come out to make sure both our Chrome app and our web apps are still functioning as they should. So that was good learnings. Connectivity. So we have, this might sound weird to say, but I mean, these devices are obviously internet-connected devices, but retail environments, and specifically Domino's, is network connectivity can be a little spotty, right? And so not all Domino's stores have great connectivity. So we obviously knew, we need a connection to run the kiosk devices, but we didn't know how bad connectivity could get sometimes. And so when you're in a store environment, when the kiosk goes down, yeah, we have to display an error page, and we're like, oh, sorry, it's down. But there's also situations where connectivity just fluctuates, and there's little blips, like there's a 1 or 2 second blip, and so you don't want error pages or weird states appearing like that all the time. So we have to be a little smarter, more intelligent about how we detected connectivity issues and handled those in different ways depending on the situation. So that was fun to learn. And then last I had here, so this is sort of advice for other retailers. We take a walk before run approach. This is putting new technologies into stores. We use a small set of stores, and we run a pilot, and we say, okay, how is this affecting? How is the technology? Is the technology stable? Is it working properly? Is it doing the things we think it should? But it also allows us to look at the operational impact. Is it impeding people from placing orders? Are customers using it? Do they like it? Do they not? So understanding how that operates in that environment is something that we've been doing quite a bit. It's been successful for us. We put things in stores all the time, and sometimes they don't work, and that's a good learning, right? And so walk before you run is something that we use quite a bit at Domino's. Works for us. So I think that's all I had to say. Overall, I guess the message I would convey is the Chrome platform for us has been great. The devices are rock solid. They're very stable. Like I said, I rarely have to worry about them. The remote management's been great, and we're really planning on doing a lot more with this technology into the future. So thank you. I think we're going to Q&A next.
Yeah, I think one thing to echo, so first of all, thank you. Working with Domino's for us was certainly eye-opening. There was a meeting, which I shared yesterday with your CIO, right before Christmas. Was a bit of a coming to Jesus meeting where it basically said, these are the 5 things that are not working. You have to literally meet us in the middle, or this is not going to work. And I think you guys offered a certain very transparent platform for feedback. And again, I think when we look at retail and we look at Chrome, we are serious about meeting customers essentially halfway, if not all the way there, right? I think a couple of years ago, we had this almost naive thought to say, like, here's a Chromebook, make it work in your environment. I think we've learned a lot through engagements that we need to tweak, and we need to really make it more customer-focused and customer-centric. And so, yeah, it's been absolutely great working with you. And again, this idea that the entry point to the cloud is the kiosk is certainly interesting, and again, you've really stretched that definition and looking into POS, and we have just so many learnings from that we can now replicate at scale. Yeah, we're not looking to almost solve everything for you, but we want to solve it for the industry. We want to solve it for the vertical, and obviously create economics of scale through our engagement. So thank you for first of all sharing your feedback, and yeah, definitely looking forward to the collaboration.